And welcome, everybody, to the Lunacy Podcast. My name is Tony. I'm here with Dave and Dave. Dave Stevens, Dave Sterling. I'm Tony Pervenanzi. We are coming to you today from Wicked Wort Brewing Company in downtown Robbinsdale. Historic downtown Robbinsdale. Of course, you can find us, the Lunacy Podcast, on Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn. We're also part of the BGN Network, Beautiful Game Network. That's bgn.fm. You can also find us on the Minnesota Podcast Network. That is podcastmn.com.
Okay, campers, rise and shine, and don't forget your booties, because it's cold out there.
It's cold out there every day. What is this, Miami Beach? I don't think
Hardly.
so.
And, you can expect hazardous travel later today with that, that blizzard.
Well, that blizzard thing. Oh, well, here's the report. The National Weather Service is calling for a big blizzard thing.
Before we get into what beers we're drinking here at Wicked Wort,
The big question on everybody's lips.
Yeah, they're chapped lips.
They're chapped lips,
Chapped
right. Do you
lips.
think Bill's going to come out and see a shadow?
Punxsutawney Phil.
That's right, woodchuck chuckers. It's Groundhog Day! Get up and check that hog out there!
and Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadow.
Did not see a shadow.
Does not see his shadow, which means that spring is coming early.
However, he is historically wrong.
Well, and I was going to say, it's hard to believe after the weather we've had the past week with negative 25 degrees and no kids in school, and it's just been crazy around here. Today we're going to be at about 40 degrees.
Yep.
So about a 60-degree, almost 70-degree turnaround from where we were at before.
Yep.
So hopefully we have an early spring, and hopefully the opening day of Allianz Field is nice and relatively warm, and we have a good time.
Right.
So.
I guess
And
it's just, do you want to be an optimist or a pessimist? We kind of had a mild winter up until this point, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
So does that mean we're going to have a short winter? Is that what we're having, just a short little spell here? Or is it a delayed kind of cold snap where the rest of February into March is going to be colder than usual?
Don't talk that way, Dave.
I mean, I
Don't.
saw a forecast that suggests we're going to have about 10 inches of snow next week.
Well, that's
Plus
terrible.
really cold temps again.
Ugh,
So, I don't know.
get me out of here.
Yeah. And, today also marks 1 month until opening day.
Yes, that's
March
right.
2nd, yeah.
So, it's kind of interesting. Kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. So I will say that we are drinking, of course, Wicked Wort Brewing Company beer. I have the Orange Dreamsicle, which, looking at this list here, is citra hops, vanilla beans, orange peel, and milk sugar. So it's like an adult dessert.
So call it lactose, just for
Yeah.
people in the
Yeah.
industry like myself, not the brewing industry.
Well, it kind of reminds me of, so a couple breweries I've been to have these milkshake IPAs.
Yep.
A little bit like that, not an IPA, but kind of like milkshake type, orange milkshake.
Sure.
Tastes very good. Stevens, what do you got?
I'm having it's a sour. It's called, I think it's relatively new. It's called the Tropical Berliner Weiss.
Ooh.
And it is a sour, and it's got, I'm just reading from the list here because my palate's not that defined, but it's got passion fruit, pink guava, and pineapple puree included. But it's nice. It's drinkable. It's tart, but smooth. Yeah, I like it.
Nice. Sterling, what you got?
I have the Showgirl Raspberry Wheat,
Oh.
I believe is the name of it. And, it's a wheat.
Yeah.
Really, really mild. It says that they use Kolsch yeast. 300 pounds of raspberry puree.
Holy jeez.
It's pretty raspberry. It's not crazy. It's not like a New Glarus raspberry tart where it's like you're eating a raspberry. It's very pleasant. It's a good drinker.
Speaking of drinking, Dave Sterling and I showed up a little early today, and we ended up going to Hackenmüller's, which I've been to numerous times. It's right next door here. And Dave got some beef sticks.
Yeah.
And they have, on their wall, they have a thing. It's called the, I don't know what it's called, but it's $450. It was their large buffet. And it was 30 pounds of beef, 30 pounds of pork, like a whole list, $450.
Yeah.
And I'm going, who's going to order that?
I mean, it's got to be somebody that's got a deep freeze.
I guess. Or you're having a big party.
Yeah.
And how is that something that you'd have delivered to your house, I'm assuming?
I'm guessing. Where are you going to put all that 30 pounds?
You said buffet. When I first heard buffet, I thought
Well, I think
spread.
that's what I think. What they give you, I think give you all that meat, and then you have to deal with it.
And just back up for our listeners who haven't been there, like myself, what is it a meat shop or what is it?
Yeah, it's just a meat market. You walk in, it's got a glass counter full of meat.
Yeah. It's an old-fashioned meat market.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Kelly's parents used to live in Robbinsdale, and we'd get brats and stuff from Hackemüller's all the time. And we also got, I think, potato salad from there, which I told you was fantastic. So it's nice that they're still around.
Yeah, and I love that they had the sawdust on the floor.
Yeah.
And it smelled like wood and meat. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like the perfect 2 cents.
Yeah, and speaking of Robbinsdale, I mean, I don't, as close as I live to Robbinsdale and Plymouth, I don't get downtown here, Robbinsdale, very often. It's a nice area. And in fact, Tony, how close are we to the spot of your wedding reception?
We're very close.
Like walking distance?
So, not walking distance, but about a half mile, maybe a mile down the road here is the Russian Vodka Bar that we had my wedding reception at. And come to find out, Kelly and I went there we went there in October because it was our 15-year wedding anniversary. So we went back there, and then we went over to Travail. We thought they were closing down. I'd heard they were going to close that Russian Vodka Bar and the VFW and demolish it. Well, I guess things have changed, and they renewed their lease, so they're sticking around now, I guess. So, which is nice.
I've never been there. I've driven past it so many times.
It's a nice spot. We for my wedding reception, we drank them out of beer. Dave was there.
We did drink them out of beer, and that got dangerous when we had to switch to vodka.
Yeah, at least it wasn't drinking them out of vodka. That'd be true.
Well, we gave it a try.
Some people did.
Yeah. Good old college try is always worth it.
By the end of the night, the guy was like, we have no beer left. All we have is these Russian beers in bottles. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
I don't think I've ever had a Russian beer.
It wasn't that great. But we're talking 15 years ago before craft beers really started to take off, so...
There's probably stuff left over from the Cold War.
Probably.
Pull it out of storage
I did
and
see
shipped it
a
over
picture of Yeltsin on one of them. It was kind of weird. And Gorbachev. Yeah.
I'd drink a beer with Gorbachev's face on it.
Would you?
I would.
Oh.
That's that birthmark.
The birthmark on the head.
Whatever he had on his head.
Yeah.
Digress, I guess.
So we are, again, Wicked Wort is downtown Robbinsdale. It's in the old TCF Bank building, which is cool. They have done a lot in here. They've redone everything in here. It's got a stage. They've got a downstairs where all their brewery equipment's at. I think they have a downstairs basement where they have events going on. They have food. You can get food from Pig Ate My Pizza right across the street. It is a great location.
Yeah. Just looking at their calendar here, they have live music tonight and next Saturday, or next Friday, I should say, so it looks like it's kind of a regular deal here.
Only thing that's different from all the other places we've been to is this is a 21 and up microbrewery, which most breweries we've been to, I think all of them have been to, kids are totally allowed to come. They have decided to say, hey, this is an adults-only brewery, and they have their reasons for doing it. I don't mind, you know.
I mean, yeah, it's their prerogative to do what they want.
Exactly. So
I really like the fact that all the brewing equipment is in the basement.
Yeah.
And they have that open area that as you walk in, you can look down and you can see all the tanks.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
In a way, it kind of reminds me of Tork, how you could look kind of down and see their whole setup, and it's nice to look at.
Tork, though, I like Tork. I like their beers. At Tork, I felt like I was in somebody's attic. You know, going up the stairs and being like up there, like I felt like somebody's attic just hanging out. And it was nice and cozy.
Yep.
This is more of an open type of mechanical stuff here, and they've got garage doors for the summertime. They've got a patio on the other side here.
Yep, and it looks like they found an old bar from somewhere over here.
Yeah.
That clearly came from a bar.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
They've got two bars, which is nice.
I think if you were standing at the main bar and kind of were blinded to what was behind you, you could almost feel like you were in a bar.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of the 21 plus vibe, but then looking around, though, I mean, it's got the feel of a brewery, especially looking at all the brewing equipment right in the middle, looking down.
Yep.
The other thing I want to point out that I'm noticing now that looks cool, they got a popcorn machine.
They do.
Looks like free popcorn, too, so that's
popcorn.
Another plus.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, games everywhere. Microbreweries always have games. So I do want to thank Amanda Carlisle for setting us up today. She was the one I talked to on through email, and she is, I think, the CFO and marketing director of Wicked Wort. So thank you, Amanda, for letting us come out. And Luke also was gracious enough to talk to us before we started this podcast. So, all right, boys, let's get into some United talk, because we had a big trade happen last week we picked up, what's his, it's Ike Opara from Seattle.
No,
Kansas City.
Kansas City, sorry.
You're getting Alonso mixed up.
I'm getting Alonso mixed up. From KC.
It's been a busy offseason.
It has been. It's 4 people we've got from KC, and we traded what was $1 million worth of TAM.
It could be. Yeah,
Could be
it
$1 million.
Incentive based, but it was $900,000 in targeted allocation money with another $100,000 in possible incentives.
So the big thing I want to say is he was a 2017 MLS Defender of the Year.
That's correct.
But he came, looking at his background, was he a second-round draft pick?
Yeah,
He
wasn't.
was traded to Kansas City for a second-round draft pick. Now,
Yes,
you know,
that's what-
back when that occurred, I mean so he was drafted. He might have been drafted in the second round. We can maybe touch on that a little bit later as I look it up. But I mean, he was drafted by the San Jose Earthquakes in 2010, and then in before the 2013 season, he was traded to KC for a second-round draft pick. And I think. That doesn't sound impressive, especially as we sit here in 2019 talking about it. But I think back in 2013, granted, I was not big into the MLS at the time. Dave, maybe you were. But a second-round draft pick back then, I think, was a little bit more important than it is now. Before the homegrown, players and all of that.
I think the draft has fizzled out a little bit in the last 3-4 years. But yeah, back then it was a little bit more important.
But this guy's a late bloomer.
Well, and he had injury issues.
And he had injury issues.
Big injury issues. So, late bloomer is a good way to put it.
And this is the concerning part about it is 2017 Defensive Player of the Year. 2018 he regressed a little bit.
Yeah, when you say a little bit, not much.
Yeah,
not
it wasn't
much.
Terrible. Yeah.
But and I think I sent this to you guys when we were texting back and forth about this, is my concern is that we saw a regression last year. He was a late bloomer. 2017 might have been his peak, and now he's starting to go through kind of the downfall of his career, which, in all honesty, we still need somebody like him.
Well, yeah.
But is he worth the $900,000 in TAM that we paid for him?
And that's a difficult question to answer because you can think of. I think it's a little spendy in my personal opinion, but it could be the result of a couple things. First, Cincinnati spent a lot of money on Hegland when they brought him in as a CB, and it way overspent on him.
Yes.
And that transaction happened the week before.
Okay.
So I have a feeling that probably ticked Opara's price tag up a bit. The other thing is we had basicly 2 months to work on our center back depth, and we did absolutely nothing. I mean, we had the waiver draft, we had the re-entry drafts. There were a couple decent center backs available. We passed on them. We also passed on Waston, who was picked up by FCC. And so I think Sporting saw an opportunity to say, well, okay, FCC just increased Hegland's the CB value a little bit. You're right up the road from us as conference quote-unquote rival. You need CB depth.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's a little high, but being TAM and so limited in how that Sporting can actually use it,
Sure.
it devalues it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And just to sit here and say, I mean, I don't. There's nobody in this room right now, including us, I'm assuming, that would say that was a bad move.
No, I don't think.
Oh, absolutely not.
I don't think it filled a position of great need.
I mean,
Avoid,
even at his regressed level.
You say regressed, and I mean, I had to chuckle a little bit at that. And what you said might be true, but you're talking about a 2017 campaign where he was a defender.
He
of the
was the
year,
guy, exactly right.
And he was part of the league's Big 11.
He was
as well. So I mean, okay, so he regressed from the top.
Yeah.
To he started the same number of games. He played a similar number of minutes.
I would say that he's still